I'm afraid this is the last talk. Like two friends sitting in the park on a lovely day, talking about life. Talking about their problems, investigating seriously the very nature of their existence, and asking themselves seriously why life has become such a great problem. Why, though intellectually we are very sophisticated, yet our daily life is such a grind, without any meaning, except survival, which again is rather doubtful. Why life, everyday existence, has become such a torture? One may go to church, follow some leader politically or religiously, but the daily life is always a turmoil. Though there is certain periods, occasionally joyful, happy, but there is always a cloud of darkness about our life. And these two friends talking together, as we are, you and the speaker, we are talking over together in a friendly manner, perhaps with affection, with care, with concern, whether it is at all possible to live a life, our daily life, without a single problem. And though we are highly educated, have certain careers, specialized, yet we have these unresolved struggles, pain, suffering, joy, and sometimes a great feeling of not being totally selfish. And together, if we can this morning, go into this question: why human beings live as we do live? Go to the office from 9 o'clock till 5 or 6 for the next 50 years. Or be occupied all the time, not only with our own problems, but also the brain, the mind is constantly occupied. There is never a quietness. There is never peace. There's always this occupation with something or other. And that's our life. That's our daily, monotonous, rather lonely, insufficient life. And we try to escape from it through religion, through a various form of entertainment. At the end of the day, we are still where we were for the last thousands and thousands of years. We seem to have changed very little psychologically, inwardly. And our problems increase. And always there is the fear of old age, disease, some accident that will put us out. So this is our existence. From childhood till we die, either voluntarily or involuntarily die. And we don't seem to have been able